Welcome back. The F-35 program will get a closer look from the chairman of the House Armed Services Committee in this Congress. Congressman Adam Smith calls the program, quote, failure on a massive freaking scale. Valerie Insinna is air warfare reporter for Defense News. Val, thanks for coming back on the program. I guess we shouldn't be surprised at the tone that Congressman Smith takes. The chairman is prone to using colorful language, but it's kind of a shift from what he said a couple of years ago. What is it that's concerning him particularly about the F-35, Val?
Well, I think what's new here is that the Air Force has actually come out and they're saying, we're studying our tactical aircraft mix. We want to look and see whether, we're buying the right number of F-35s or if this is something that we need to scale back. So I think with the Air Force out in front saying this, that sort of, brings up some questions to Congressman Smith. And so now, he sort of jumped on the bandwagon, raising some concerns about the cost of the aircraft, a continued problem that we've talked about a lot. And so he's kind of emerged, if the Air Force is going to downsize this buy, he's emerged as maybe someone who would be a champion in Congress for doing that.
Is the discussion that the Air Force is undertaking part of this broader look at all of its platforms, or is it thinking about a next generation aircraft in and of itself, Val?
It's a very broad look at its tactical aircraft mix. So, it's going to be looking at things like how do we replace the F-16? That was something that was supposed to be replaced by the F-35. But now the Air Force is looking at other options, maybe buying new F-16s, maybe buying a new aircraft altogether. It's going to be looking at the Next Generation Air Dominance Program, which is the 6th generation fighter. It's going to be looking at, okay, so how many F-15EXs is the right number to buy, and then F-35 on top of it. So it's sort of a broad look inside of that tactical aircraft portfolio.
Does that portfolio review sound like, though, from the documents that you've reviewed, sound like a holistic review, like the Air Force is looking end to end, or is it looking at individual platforms?
Kind of both at the same time, and it's something that they are also in conversation with the Defense Department, the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and the CAPE office, which very scrutinizes programs very closely to make sure that they're abiding by cost. So this is like a broad kind of holistic look at what should that mix look like, but it is something that is going to come up with findings that will look at each platform and target certain platforms individually.
The F-35 program gets a lot of the attention, Val, whenever anything happens with it because of the amount of money that's consumed and the problems that it's had over the years. But you've written about a number of other platforms in the last few days. You've written about the E-7, the B-52, the KC-46, the F-15EX. Which of these should people be paying attention to in addition to the F-35 program? Which of these are highest profile for the Air Force right now?
Well, I think that the KC-46 is definitely one that's going to receive some scrutiny going forward, as it has, over the past couple of years. The Air Force is showing some confidence in the program and that they want to do some limited operations with it. So now the question will be like, can Boeing keep up the momentum and fixing the problems on that program? And does the aircraft perform well enough in operations that the Air Force gains even greater confidence? So that's one thing that I would look at. And the other thing I would say, the wedge-tail conversation is very interesting. It's a program that is not something the Air Force is buying right now, but it's something that I've heard the Air Force has been interested in for years, and now we've gotten a lot of major commanders coming out and saying, we would really like to buy this. So it's something that I would definitely think could be in the next budget.
You write about the KC-46 tanker with this headline: the tanker's most infamous problem isn't the one that impacts pilots the most. What's going on there?
So this was very interesting. A bunch of journalists, we got to go out to Joint Base Andrews a couple weeks ago and talk to, pilots, air crew, boom operators that fly that aircraft every day. And one thing that we heard from the pilots is that there are some problems with this system. It's called OBIGS, and what it basically does is it provides lightning protection and protection so that if the fuel tanks are hit, they don't ignite. So very important system, but right now they cannot take off unless the OBIG system is at completely 100%. So that can sometimes take hours, and that's not something that operators are used to having to stand by and wait to happen. So that's something that the Air Force is looking at. It's not one of the top ranked problems, but it's definitely something that Boeing has to fix and that we're going to be keeping an eye on going forward.
30 seconds left, Val. Is this a software system or is this a mechanical system that this plane is struggling with?
It's a mechanical system. It basically pumps in nitrogen to replace some of the oxygen in the fuel tanks. So it's something that you would find on most commercial aircraft.
Val, thanks very much for coming on. It's great to have you back.
Thank you for having me.